Okay, so we are team number 1, always hacking, never slacking. We're going to explore the State Patrol stops data set in California, in Georgia, and our main goal is to analyze if disciplinary actions varies by race. Before beginning the presentation, I'd like to thank the incredible students that I had the chance to work with, namely Elijah, Jasmine, Basil, Jarius, Stacy, and Ziona. For me, especially being my first experience with a hackathon, it was a very good time in terms of a good time to learn and look for future opportunities, especially the challenges to coordinate the activities with different time zones. But it was really fulfilling to be part of this team. So with no further ado, I pass the floor to Jasmine, who will introduce the other topics of our presentation.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Fernando. So this evening, to support our study for the hackathon, some data we found to support our research for California specifically was that the Highway Patrol conducts nearly 31.7 million a year and has 7,616 troopers a part of their department. Additionally, as of 2019, California's population was roughly 39 million. We know California is a very huge state. And lastly, for California, the state covers an area of 163 and 6,900 miles. And on the opposing side for Georgia, their department is a bit smaller. They have 1.9 million a year and 847 troopers. In 2019, their data shows that the population was 10.8 million. And the state of Georgia covers about 425,000 miles. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so some disparities that we found in regard to traffic stops were that in 2015, there were roughly 2.1 million arrests of women aged 16 and older. However, only 12 million police initiated contacts, including the traffic stops. It's key to note here that for every one woman arrested, there were 5 approached by police. In 2017, we found that the data shows women made up 27% of all arrests. And that is data that has increased in previous decades. Lastly, policing of women of color has received little attention. Due to this, women of color in national discourse of policing is largely absent. Thus, the full scope of racial discrimination in traffic and police stops is truly unknown. Thank you, and I'll yield the floor to my colleague, Elijah.
Elijah?
Perhaps he might be having internet troubles. I'm happy to continue his slides, Fernando, and then we can transfer over to you.
Cool.
Thank you. So furthermore, regarding the disparities in traffic stops, we found that the information of Bureau of Justice, their statistics from 2015 demonstrated that there were up from 44% of all police initiated contact, up from 41% of traffic stops with women driving. Furthermore, Black women are 17% more likely to be stopped than white women, and 34% more likely than Latino women. Black men are 12% more likely than white drivers to be stopped, and 17% more likely than Latino drivers. Next slide, please. So some of the traffic information that we found regarding traffic trends, Black Californians are more than 2 times as likely to be searched as white Californians. There's about a 20% versus 8% ratio of all of their stops. Black individuals are 2 times more likely than white individuals to be booked, causing further implications. Black residents are also account for 16% of all stops, but constitute only for 7% of the population in California. And officers report reasonable suspicion in 21% of stops involving Black and 11.7% involving white people. And I will yield the floor to my colleague, Fernanda.
Okay, now talking a little bit more about the data set we use. As I said in the beginning, our main source was the California and Georgia State Patrol stops between December 2011 and December 2016. We have over 14 million observations, mainly in California. And we had to drop around 30% of our sample units due to missing racial data. So as the disciplinary actions considered was the first one was the warning, which is basically the formal way for an officer to tell you that you broke the law. In some states, it is a kind of situation you should invite the officer to dinner because they're not recorded on your driving record and do not affect your insurance premium. So would be the lighter penalty for traffic violations. Next one. The next one would be the citation, which is when you are actually, which is a monetary penalty, and it's a legal jargon for tickets. It goes to summons when you are summoned to court to face your charges. So you have to appear for your court date, and you may be subject to arrest and facing charges if you do not appear for your court date. So it increases in terms of it's a more severe penalty. And finally, arrest. It's basically getting arrested means that you're facing criminal charges. So it's the most severe traffic violation penalty that we are considering in our study. So this is, I'll walk you through this table. This is like the distribution of disciplinary actions by race and state. Unfortunately, our sample for Georgia only had units for warnings, which harm any comparison across states, since especially because you lack the outcome variation in the Georgia data set. So all units included receive a warning. So so it prevented us to make to do some comparison across states. So as an example, just to walk you through this table. So the first line, like the 28% of the disciplinary actions applied to white individuals in California are warnings, and in Georgia, these are the percentage of the distribution of warnings across races. So for this exercise, we chose to use the logistic model. It's one of the recommended type of models to model binary outcomes, which were mainly the variables we work with. Has an easy interpretation, and Stata provide these margins command, which facilitates the interpretation of the predicted probabilities, which are the outcomes of our analysis.
1 minute.
Okay. Yeah. Um, as a way to kind of answer the main questions of the hackathon, based on this exercise, our output suggests higher probability of, especially of summons and arrests to individuals racially perceived as Black and Hispanic. So these first three charts are the predicted probabilities for Black as for individuals racially perceived as Black. This one for Hispanic. Yeah, this is again, since we are running out of time, but just to check to the last one, which were required to take into consideration the outcome test. I haven't since we focus more on the logit model, but the outcome tests are a popular method for detecting bias in policy decisions. Although I don't have I could not compare like the model we use with this one, but one thing that could complement that would be very useful for our residents would be to the data sets to be supplemented with more observable characteristics, which could make us have a more robust results and more policy suggestions based on the outputs generated. That's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and thank you.